Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take that fire hose of technical information, the weekly digests, the research papers.
The endless threads.
Exactly. And we distill it all down to the essential, actionable knowledge you need right now. We're kicking off 2026 with a monster stack of sources.
It's a truly massive digest. I think it spans 8 critical domains, everything from core Azure infrastructure all the way to the bleeding edge of, quantum physics and AI security threats.
So our mission for this deep dive is to connect the dots. We need to show you why a change in, say, cloud architecture actually impacts your security strategy.
And why the sheer complexity of something like administering teams is driving this push toward autonomous AI development.
We're calling this one technical news you can possibly use. And honestly, if you're trying to get caught up for a meeting, this is your shortcut.
We need to pull back the curtain on the strategic shifts here, not just the, feature announcements.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the foundation, the cloud.
Right. Azure Platform Insights.
Which is celebrating a pretty big anniversary.
That's right. The source material notes Azure's 15th anniversary, it's a long time. So they're doing a big retrospective. Azure at 15, what's next for the cloud, AI, and you.
But the tactical updates, the stuff happening right now, seem laser-focused on one thing.
Security. And identity, really.
I noticed that. The whole discussion around intra-account recovery signals that identity isn't just a checkbox anymore.
It's a central management layer.
For all your cloud infrastructure.
Precisely. In this decentralized multi-cloud world, the old idea of a network perimeter it's basically irrelevant.
So if you lose control of an identity,
you lose your environment, full stop. So focusing on intra-account recovery isn't just about restoring access. It's about having these high-assurance processes for when, not if, an identity gets compromised.
And as organizations are modernizing, they're rethinking how their apps actually run. There's a big section on what's next for Azure containers.
Absolutely. And the future they're pushing is serverless container deployment. They call it Azure Container Apps, or ACA.
So what does that mean for you, the developer?
It means freedom from the infrastructure burden. I mean, instead of managing these super complex Kubernetes clusters or setting up scaling rules or patching VMs.
The platform just handles it.
It just handles it. All of that is automatic. It drastically lowers the barrier to entry for running a microservices at scale.
It's the ultimate promise of serverless, right?
Yeah.
Focus on the code, not the plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of plumbing, I saw a real emphasis on practical observability, moving beyond just theory. The highlight on real-time monitoring with real-life use cases using Database Watcher.
That's critical, because real-time monitoring is great, but the focus on real-life use cases tells us that Azure is helping people bridge that gap between seeing a log entry and understanding the actual business impact of a slowdown.
Okay, so that sets us up nicely for the tools people use every single day. Let's jump into Microsoft 365.
Productivity, planning, and the headaches that come with it.
The administrative complexity of M365 is it's astounding. Reflected in the need for a full 2026 tutorial just for administering Microsoft Teams.
I know. Teams has expanded so quickly. I mean, telephony, huge meetings, app integrations, that the administrative overhead is this constant tax on IT departments.
Which I imagine is one of the drivers for all the automation we're going to talk about later.
It has to be.
On the productivity side, though, I did like seeing OneNote and OneDrive faster Parry archive searches in 2026.
That's a subtle but really powerful update for, any knowledge workers out there. Parry, projects, areas, resources, archives. It's a standard way to organize your digital life.
And a really effective one.
It is. So by speeding up archive search in core tools like OneNote, Microsoft is showing they get how advanced users want to work.
Those are the useful features. But now we have to turn to the strategic warning, the part where every IT leader listening really needs to pay attention.
This is the big one. It's Microsoft's 2026 end of support wave.
And we can't overstate this, can we?
No. This is non-negotiable strategic info. This wave specifically includes Windows 11 24H2 and Office 2021.
For a big company, planning a migration for thousands of users takes months, right?
Exactly. So if you haven't started planning for this now, you are already behind the curve. Running unsupported software is it's an invitation for trouble. Massive security and compliance risks.
So you have this tension between managing the old legacy systems while trying to adopt all the new, fast AI tools.
That's the friction right there. That's the job.
That is the definition of technical news you can use. All right, let's pivot. Let's go to the land of low-code automation and genuinely weird applications.
Power Platform and Dynamics 365.
We see the usual stuff, using SharePoint Framework or SPFX for copying pages across SharePoint sites.
Yeah, and using VS Code to document your Power Platform solutions quickly. Just good housekeeping, basically.
Functional, necessary,
Yeah.
but not fascinating. What is fascinating is the title that just stopped us in our tracks.
Cat Performance Review with Power BI, MCP, and LLM.
I still can't quite believe that's a real source.
It sounds like a joke, but it's the perfect bite-sized explainer for what's happening with advanced AI automation. Let's just break it down.
Please do.
Okay, so Power BI, that's your data layer. It's handling the ingestion, the visualization, the dashboard.
The presentation.
Right. Then the LLM, the large language model, that's the analytical brain. It interprets the data and actually writes the review.
But there's a piece missing. The bridge that makes this automated CAT review even possible is the MCP.
The Model Context Protocol. That is the secret sauce here. See, LLMs are powerful, but they're often trained on static data. They're blind to the real world.
Okay.
MCP is an open standard that lets the LLM safely call out to external tools, databases, APIs, anything. Think of it as a standardized way for an AI to use a tool.
So the LLM gets asked for a review. It uses MCP to ping the Power BI data source, or maybe sensor readings from the cat's food bowl or something.
Exactly. And it uses that real-time data to generate its analysis. This ability to ground AI in dynamic real-world data is what moves it out of the chatbot realm and into true enterprise automation.
If it can review a cat's performance.
It can review supply chain logs or employee efficiency metrics.
That explains it perfectly. Okay, let's jump into the world of the builders and operators, DevOps, SRE, infrastructure, where AI is really changing the game for developers.
The theme here is autonomy, both for the human developer and for the AI assistant. You see articles like your code base, your rules, which is great, but the tools are changing so fast.
Which leads to the big question. AI IDs, what do you choose? The integrated development environment.
Yeah, and this choice reflects a fundamental shift. We're giving the machine more agency, which brings us to agentic development.
This is a paradigm shift we have to talk about. The source highlights 5 key trends shaping agentic development in 2026. What does that mean?
Agentic development moves way beyond something like Copilot, which just assists a human. We're talking about fully autonomous AI agents that can take a high-level goal, break it down into tasks, write code, run tests, debug,
And even deploy, all without a human stepping in.
Exactly. The developer's job shifts from writing code to defining requirements and managing these teams of AI agents.
So if you have multiple agents, they need to talk to each other.
And that's where the next piece comes in, the A2A, or agent-to-agent protocol. If you have a security agent and a testing agent and a deployment agent, they need a common language.
So A2A lets them collaborate, delegate tasks, maintain context.
Yes, even if they're built by different companies, it's a standard for AI collaboration.
But wait, if these agents are collaborating and one of them introduces a security vulnerability, who's responsible? Who owns the mistake?
That's the massive challenge. How do you debug a collaboration between non-deterministic systems? It's a whole new kind of technical debt.
And yet, amidst all this crazy automation, the human element is still there. I see the top 10 UX study guides and glossaries is still relevant.
User experience. It's the final check. You can have the most perfect AI-generated code, but if the interface confuses the user, the software is a failure. Human-centric design is still the ultimate metric.
That's a perfect segue into our next section, data, analytics, and AI. This is what's defining the entire strategic landscape for 2026.
It completely dominates the news flow. You've got these huge resources like 51 charts explaining AI in 2026 and a focus on 5 emerging trends in data engineering.
The sheer volume of this stuff just confirms that AI is not optional anymore.
Right, but the core technical architecture that really separates enterprise-grade AI from just a general LLM chatbot is RAG.
RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, the source 9 RAG architectures every AI developer must know. Why is this so critical?
RAG is the antidote to hallucination. Standard LLMs are brilliant pattern matchers, but they can just make stuff up. RAG fixes that by using your own proprietary verified data. When a user asks a question, RAG first retrieves relevant documents from your database, and then it augments the LLM's prompt with that verified context.
So it forces the LLM to generate an answer that's grounded in your truth.
Exactly. It makes it usable for mission-critical tasks.
Yeah.
And those 9 architectures show you it's not a simple thing to implement, it's complex.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because this isn't just about getting better answers, it's about economic replacement.
Mm-hmm.
The discussion with Anthropic CPO Mike Krieger, how AI starts doing the work in 2026, that's a loud signal.
It means we're crossing the line from assistance to autonomous action. If an AI agent, powered by Arby and using tools via MCP, can access proprietary data, it stops being a helper and it starts taking over entire job functions.
From legal drafting to coding.
Everything. It forces a massive accelerated reskilling of the workforce.
And with that massive increase in power, we absolutely have to talk about security, compliance, and privacy. The threats are escalating just as fast as the capabilities.
The sources here paint a really stark picture. You have U.S. cybersecurity experts plead guilty to Black Cat ransomware attacks. That just underscores the internal risks. These groups are recruiting top-tier talent.
And the sheer scope is breathtaking. The Dark Spectre browser extension campaigns. 8.8 million users impacted worldwide.
It shows how effective a simple supply chain compromise can be, just a seemingly benign browser extension.
Defensively, IT is trying to unify everything. I see a note on managing Microsoft Sentinel and Microsoft Defender XDR permissions in one portal.
That's a necessary reaction. You can't fight a threat that big with siloed tools. You have to centralize.
But the most disruptive story here is the rise of offensive AI tools. This links right back to agentic development. Tell me about Neurosploit v2.
Neurosploit v2 is the next step in automated penetration testing. It's an AI-powered pen testing tool that uses not one, but multiple large language models.
He's using Claude, GPT, and Gemini. Why all three?
Because each model has different strengths. One might be better at code generation, another at planning an attack path, another at exploiting a specific vulnerability. Neurosploit likely uses an A2A-style protocol to make them collaborate.
So one agent finds the target, another writes the exploit.
And a third refines the payload. It automates vulnerability discovery and makes the defender's job exponentially harder.
So if the offensive tools are using collaborative multi-LLM approaches, does a single model defense even stand a chance?
It feels like an arms race where the offense has the high ground. It suggests that defensive AI also needs to become multi-agent and autonomous, which makes the next section, learning and certifications, even more vital.
Agreed. If the speed of change is this fast, continuous education is the only way.
And the learning resources are completely dominated by future gazing. You've got 2 parts covering the 50 AI predictions for 2026. For anyone listening, that's not just interesting reading, it's career planning.
And once you've seen the future, you have to be able to execute. Which brings us back to Microsoft Copilot.
Right. The How to Use Microsoft Copilot 2026 Beginner's Guide is foundational. Copilot is the practical interface for AI for most people. Mastering it, understanding its limits, its potential, is probably the single most important skill transition for users this year.
All right, let's wrap this up by looking at the macro trends. Segment 8, Industry News. This shifts us from the cloud back to government, the workforce, and quantum physics.
On the government front, the DoD is expanding login options beyond the old CAC card. It just signals that even the most secure legacy organizations have to adopt modern authentication to keep pace.
And the workforce itself is changing. The outgoing NIST cyber workforce director talked about a shift to skills-based hiring.
Because the skills are changing too fast for traditional academia to keep up, it's about what you can do, not what degree you have.
We also have expert predictions on quantum technology in 2026.
The message there is still that we're working on fundamental challenges, error correction, things like that. We're not quite there yet.
But the single biggest strategic headline in this entire digest has to be the one titled, AI killed the cloud-first strategy. Why hybrid computing is the only way forward. I mean, for a decade, cloud-first was gospel.
It was, but this reversal is driven by pure physics and economics.
How so?
Training these massive LLMs requires an incredible density of specialized power, mostly GPU clusters. Running those intense AI workloads in a pure public cloud model gets prohibitively expensive. And there's latency.
So it's actually cheaper and faster to build your own specialized on-prem rig just for the AI development.
For the training and fine-tuning, yes. It's the defining strategic reversal of 2026. The public cloud is still critical for scale, but the core AI work is often being pulled back in-house.
And amidst all this talk of massive architecture and AI warfare, we end on a very human note. A 15-year-old Belgian researcher who just earned a PhD in quantum physics.
An incredible story. It's a powerful reminder that human curiosity and intellect are still the driving force behind all of this.
So what does this all mean?
If you synthesize this whole week, 2026 is the year AI stops being a feature and starts dictating strategy. It has effectively killed the cloud-first model, replacing it with a mandatory hybrid computing approach.
And that acceleration is fueling a security arms race. You got tools like Neurosploit v2 being used against environments that are also trying to manage massive, complex migrations like the Windows 11 end of support.
From identity security and RGRAG architectures to agentic development, the landscape is defined by speed and complexity. The key takeaway is that you have to manage this bifurcated world.
Which leads to our final provocative thought for you to mull over. Given this sudden mandatory shift back to hybrid computing and the rise of tools like Neurosploit v2, what is the single biggest security risk in that new architecture? Is it the sheer complexity of managing it all?
Or is the highest risk found in the gaps created where the new fast-moving AI infrastructure meets those unpatchable legacy on-prem systems that you just can't afford to retire?
Something to ponder as you plan your strategy for the coming quarters. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next week.